So, Clerks 3. Uh, it's actually a little difficult to talk about this one just because it's made me quite emotional. I can't deny. There is just something about the way. I'm, I gotta say, I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. I've watched pretty much everything he's done simply because I enjoy his writing style, I enjoy his directing style. I don't think he's a kind of one trick pony. I think he's done enough in his career to kind of show people that he has more teeth to him. He's got more like skin in the game when it comes to his writing capabilities. Because you could compare him to things just like Clerks or Jay and Silent Bob, but then you forget that he's also done things like Red State, and Red State's a fantastic film. I think I did an entry on Red State, and if I haven't, I should, because Red State is fantastic. Things like Red State, really obscure horrors like Tusk that he kind of wrote just as a joke, but it's actually just one of these films that falls in line with the same kind of, I guess, people who would like films like The Human Centipede, but also like making fun of The Human Centipede at the same time, and still being enough that I kind of, you kind of don't want to sort of watch it. I mean, that's me. I was not a fan of Tusk, but I have seen it because, again, Kevin Smith. So, we're talking about his recent film. Clerks 3 came out last month, and oh boy. I mean, it's it's difficult to say whether or not how other people might view the film or whatnot. It's upsetting because you look at what the film like was able to do like financially successfully, even though it hasn't been like reaching its goals. For anybody who is a fan, like it's getting the reviews that it deserves, and that's got to be coming from people who probably sat through it and appreciated it for what it was. Now, again, it's not the best out of the Clerks. Clerks 1 is always going to be unique, and then Clerks 2 is going to have its own little slice of what is part of the Kevin Smith universe, which is called the View Askew inverse. It's part of his production company, View Askew, and just watching the story unfold, even though there are certain points where you kind of sit there and go, oh, this could have been done better. Oh, why are they acting like this? Why is it filmed like this? Why did he decide to take this route? It's just this way of viewing that story to me, and again, this is just my interpretation. This is, I believe, just his way of kind of showing a level of appreciation to know that Clerks is kind of what started his career, and then being that Clerks is what kind of pushed him out there and kind of allowed him to show people that he does have this talent. It's also a matter that this is probably his love letter to the trilogy, his love letter to his production company, the View Askew Productions. And it's also just his love letter to this story and these characters because, everything that happens in the film, it's heartbreaking while also being like this joke on what his movie was, and this joke sort of on how like society would view his movie if he tried to release it how it was now from then, but still showing the appreciation for how like when you look back at that movie, you understand it was one of those movies that was made for its time, and it still has its quirkiness, it still has its uniqueness. It's filmed in black and white, and specifically it's filmed that way because he literally did it all on his own. And to come from that to now being what Clerks 3 is, to have all those characters still want to be involved, pretty much all of them still, alive and wanting to like tell this story. It could easily be that this story didn't come to fruition, but we got it. And it is truly this just love letter to all of the actors, all of the people that he supports, all of the stories he's told. It really is just this homage to what his career sort of is. Now, I also know that he does write a lot about his life, and that's how he creates these characters. And I feel that because sometimes I feel like that's how my writing is as well. I write as if there are things I experience, things I imagine, things where I stop and I go, wow, somebody should write this down, somebody should make this into something. So I watch how he writes, and I know that the prominentness of the medical issues that I touched on. You have both characters suffering severe heart attacks, because I'm pretty certain Kevin Smith in his own life has suffered a severe heart attack. So maybe that was this thing where he had this sort of epiphany that he started writing what Clerks 3 would be, because, I know since that he's kind of had this sort of new view on the world. And I remember watching the Joe Rogan with him, where he was interviewed, talking about that and talking about how his medical issues caused him to kind of reevaluate his life and reevaluate how he saw things. He got back into shape. He was still writing. He was still doing his thing. And I think maybe that is where he sort of started the writing for this script, because he knew that in some way, shape, or form, this would be his, I don't want to say like his magnum opus, because he still has plenty of years and he's still a super intelligent writer and director, that I know that he's going to come up with something else down the line. What I really want is I want a sequel to Dogma, because I think Dogma is a fantastic film, and I think a film that does the exact same things Dogma did now would be tremendous. I doubt he'll ever do it. I think he's gone on record saying that he started one, didn't like it, scrapped it, and hasn't really thought about picking it up again, because Dogma was essentially, again, his views on what it was like growing up in a very religious household, and he wanted to put that sort of what he felt was kind of like buffoonery almost out into the open and display it how it was in his mind. And it's a tremendous film. It's a tremendous film that's written extremely well. Clerks 3 is just this it's meant to be a comedy, but for me it's more along the lines of this journey through, I guess, the elder years of what it feels like from looking back on memories of where you started and where you are now, and dealing with those. And it's almost like there's a symbolism behind, the repetitiveness of the characters, because you have these best friends that are always fighting, but they really do love each other, because they've been friends for 20 years, 25 years. And you feel that when you know that you have also somebody in your life that is almost the exact same way. I have a best friend of 25 years. I don't know what my life would be like without that dude, and I'm probably going to give him a call in a little bit, because this just has me thinking about him, and I don't know how I would feel if I was in the scenario that is portrayed in this film. Yeah, I mean, it's really emotional. I'm not gonna lie, I cried like a little bitch. And I actually, I'm doing this entry not too long after I watched it for the second time, because I watched it one night. I was gonna do an entry on it, but then I really wanted to watch it again, because I knew that I wanted to sit down and I wanted my actual emotions to kind of hopefully get portrayed in my voice, because I really don't give a shit what anybody has to say. Kevin Smith to me is awesome. This movie is awesome. I don't give a shit what any other critic has to say. I don't care if anybody has something mean to say. I didn't go into this movie expecting it to blow my socks off. I didn't go into this film expecting it to win Oscars. I didn't go into this film expecting him to get Emmy nominated for Best Director. I went into this film expecting it to be exactly what I love about Kevin Smith, to get that and to appreciate the fact that he is still making quality stories that interest me. Maybe it doesn't interest anybody, but that's unfortunate for them. And it's not unfortunate for me, because I get to view these without the glimmer glasses of trying to make everything, Inception or The Revenant. Not everything has to be something that is Scarface, or The Godfather. It doesn't have to be that. And that's what I love about View Askew and the Kevin Smith films, is that none of these are The Departed. They're not meant to be any of these type of films. They're meant to be films you can appreciate because they're written well. It's it's got meat and bones to it. It's got something that's more to it, that's more valuable than just trying to view it as, why is it not perfect? It doesn't have to be perfect. And that's a very small taste of what I appreciate about most films. I know that there are films out there that suck. I know that there are films out there that people have arguments about whether or not they're good or bad. I've said it a million times. I hate the Game of Thrones ending. Excuse me. I hate the Game of Thrones ending. But there's a lot of people that might like the Game of Thrones ending. Kudos to you. I'm happy for you. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you do not like this movie, you are watching it for the wrong reasons. Straight up, period. Watch it without the glimmer glasses. View it with an open mind. Watch all three of them back to back, because maybe people have just lost their touch because the last one came out in 2006. That's 16 years ago. Maybe people who aren't appreciating it have not remembered where it's coming from. So maybe you should have this little trilogy marathon, watch all three of them, and then maybe you'll get a little better appreciation for what it is that is portrayed in this film.